Good evening. By now you know the meaning of good evening, good morning, right? Good evening. Nimo dele, sen dele, nyeme konya dele, nyezin tao du dele, kunjo sumji tashi sho. There's a very famous verse of auspiciousness, where it is said that may you have well-being in the day, may you have well-being in the night, may you have well-being during the midday, may you have well-being throughout the day and the night. Right? So that means that well-being that we all aspire, that happiness that we all aspire, we cannot get it from someone else, but we need to cultivate it by our own mental attitude, maintaining the correct mental perspective. And in order to develop that mental attitude, you need to physically, verbally, mentally engage in positive deeds, which is really called practice of morality. And once you have that practice of morality, you can concentrate. When your mind is not disturbed, you can concentrate. So we have been discussing about the Eight Worldly Dharmas, which are really distractions and obstructions to developing one-pointed mind. Both in war and in peace, concentration is the source of success. Both in war and in peace, or any activity that you do, if you concentrate, even within a short time, you can achieve many great things. If you don't concentrate, you do the same thing again and again and again and again. There's really no progress, no development, right? And that concentration is possible if you enjoy what you are doing, if you reluctantly engage in something. For example, in the case of dharma practice, if you do dharma practice because your teacher said so, or for some other petty reasons, then there will be not much development, not much achievement, no real transformation of the mind. So whatever we do, we should enjoy what we are doing, delight in that. And if you enjoy something, then time is not the key factor. If you don't enjoy something, even if it is 1 hour, that 1 hour will look like a year. You see, you keep on watching your watch, it looks like the minutes and seconds, even seconds are not like moving. When you are happy, for example, when you are holidaying or having a picnic, you have no idea how the time flies. So this is all dependent upon right mental attitude, enjoying, not in a pleasure-seeking sense, but really developing that delight. As I said yesterday, we can develop that delightfulness, we can develop that happiness by recognizing many good things that we have. 2 eyes intact, 2 hands intact, as I said, 2 legs intact, really amazing, right? Right? So enjoy, be happy, and with that happy state of mind, you can do many practices. So although we described the Eight Worldly Dharmas a little bit, but while I was thinking about giving this talk on Eight Worldly Dharmas, I started reading the 8th chapter from Bodhicharyavatara, concentration, which was basically how to remove those distractions. So today we'll read that text. Okay? So you open that book you have, that pages that you have, meditation from Bodhicharyavatara, chapter 8. So for the benefit of all those who are bilingual or who wants to read Tibetan, English, I put both of these here. Okay, so I made some homework. Okay, I'm not just coming here. I spend early mornings and evenings, looking at different texts, pulling them, then with my feeble hands, fingers, trying to type, So I use only one finger, for all the keys. So don't make fun of me, okay? I only want to tell you that how much I worked, jokingly. Try this. Many of you have tried. Many of you must have done one or other kind of meditation. But try this if you have not done. Early morning, get up. If you know any formal meditation, do that. If you don't know, at least keep quiet and remain silent. Take long breath and these things, inhaling and exhalation and things like that. Remain at least 5-10 minutes silent. The peace, the amount of peace and the tranquility that you will get, you cannot get it by mixing with people and things like that. Be with yourself. You see, today the situation is, the inside of each of us is really like a house where the owner never visited for a long time. The house is locked, the owner has gone, and the house is now dilapidating, collecting cobwebs and dust and things like that. So our mind is like that, the cobwebs of negative emotions, dust of negative emotions, collecting. Nobody care to come inside. And therefore we suffer from all these, problems like depression and so forth, because there is no inner resources, right? So explore those inner resources. And see the importance of pulling out these inner resources versus external resources. In the case of external material resources, they are physical resources. Physical resources or material resources by definition have limitation. It's physical, it's a limitation. Whether it's gold or silver or water or forest, there's limitation. If you cut one tree, it's gone. There's a limitation, you see, which we are seeing that today, the dwindling natural resources we are already experiencing. There's a limitation. As His Holiness the Dalai Lama says, in the case of the external material resources, there is limitation. Therefore, you should realize this, and therefore you should have contentment, practice contentment. In the case of the internal resources, the development of inner resources like loving kindness, compassion, there is no limit. And in this case, we are all contented. I did 5 minutes meditation in the morning, contented, hardly make any effort. You see, so what these Buddhist teachings are saying, what His Holiness is saying is, pull out these inner resources which is limitless. And the good thing with these inner resources is, if you develop loving kindness, if you develop compassion, if you develop patience, it will never become excess baggage. The external material resources, we all know this. Whenever we travel at the airport, they will say, Madam, sorry, excess baggage, you have to pay for that. In India, most of the airlines these days allow only 15 kilos to carry. If you carry more, excess baggage, you will be punished for that, you will be charged for that. And this is not a new phenomenon. Buddha taught about this long time back. He said, you can't take anything when you die. That means whatever you have now will become excess baggage, right? And then it's so easy. You don't have to carry so many things. If you have the inner resources, if you have the knowledge, if you have the qualification, wherever you go, you are useful. Everybody will invite you, right? And if you don't have that, then you have to carry so many things. And this inner resources, nobody will steal. External resources, burglars are there watching you, what you are carrying, on which side your pocket is there. There's somebody watching, your gold chain, etc. Somebody is watching, right? And then for external resources, how much we have to work? The work which is normally dependent upon others' mercy, unfortunately, right? In the inner resources, you can develop that without having to pay much. At the most, if you attend a teaching, you may give like a little bit of donation, things like that. But otherwise, you can get all these resources free, right? So with this kind of recognition, we should develop these inner resources, right? So for that, we need all these practices: patience, learning, remaining in solitude, making effort, and then depending upon. Once in the forest, you don't live like a tiger and lion. What is the purpose of being in solitude? The purpose of being in solitude is to meditate. And meditate on what? Meditate on those. First of all, to do that meditation, you should find out those negative emotions. You have many negative emotions. All of us have many negative emotions. But out of these many negative emotions, find out those negative emotions which is really bothering you, which has a predominant presence. But for example, if you are very, very hot-tempered person and you got already many problems, then deal with that first, because that is really going to harm you and your family and so forth. So try to deal with that, reduce your anger, reduce your hatred. So therefore here it says, having gone into the solitude in the forest, meditate on ugliness. Meaning, if you are somebody who is having lot of attachment, right, lot of attachment, then meditate on the ugliness of that object. Like for example, Mercedes car. Wow, you have to pay so much money. Mercedes car, very fancy. You are dying to have that. You work like a donkey to get that. You do the window shopping first so many times because you don't have the money. Then you work like a donkey, collect money and money. Then after that, finally you have this BMW car. So imagine how much work you have to do just to get that, because of this excessive obsession and attachment with that object, thinking that BMW is the thing. Right? So therefore, depending upon which of the negative emotions has a predominant presence in you, you should develop that, the counter forces for that. Right? Now, what is the fault of getting distracted? The fault of mental distraction is, when we talk about concentration, we are talking about concentration for the benefit of sentient beings. Now, if you are unable to concentrate, then you are distracted from helping other sentient beings. That's the fault. If you are distracted, then forget about developing higher qualities. You will not be able to develop even small worldly concentrations. There is a Tibetan saying which says, "Khap chenyi tsimbu meyungs." A needle with 2 points is not useful in sewing cloth. Right? 2 points, how can you stitch your cloth? So similarly, when your mind is not only 2, 3, 4, 5 like this, you won't be able to achieve anything. I always give this example of laser beam. When the rays of the laser beam are concentrated and focused, it can cut through steel. But when the rays of the laser beam are scattered, it doesn't have that power to cut through steel. There are many examples like that in the physical world also. There are many examples like that. Okay? So if you get distracted, how can you achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings? So therefore you make a decision, determination, thinking that my project, my purpose is to benefit all sentient beings. Therefore, I must not get distracted. Big project. I think I told you the story of a Tibetan teacher who asked his students, "Are you practicing dharma?" I said, "Already, right?" And he said, "Yes, yes." Then the teacher said, "Don't tell me lie. In the night you are sleeping, in the day you are distracted, so when do you find time to do dharma practice?" Honestly speaking, we are very, very distracted to so many things. And today this kind of distraction is encouraged by calling it multitasking. Multitasking, do this, do that, so many things. Then the people encourage that this is a good thing. And the result is a clear indication that it's not good thing is many people in general, especially many people are today suffering from attention deficiency. Attention deficiency. They are unable to concentrate on one thing properly, you see. So really, more and more we are coming closer to the monkey mind. Monkey mind. And human mind is very funny. If you ask not to do something, the mind will go to it. If you ask to do something, it will not do it. Just like small kids, Monkey mind. Right? There is a story of a great Indian teacher who wanted to do meditation and was looking for a great teacher. Then somebody said, "There is a really great meditator in Tibet." This is an old Indian story. And this Indian, he was also a great scholar. So he goes to the Tibetan meditator and asks his advice, the Tibetan teacher says, oh, it's very simple, there's nothing much to teach. You have to do only just one thing. And that one thing is, don't ever think about monkey. Okay? Don't ever think about monkey. Then, because he was also a scholar, he said, this is a very funny teaching, such a great scholar like me, why the hell I should think about monkey? Then he said, this is very simple, very easy, although I don't know the purpose. So he goes back, and the funny thing is, the only thing he kept on doing was thinking about monkey. So this is called monkey mind, okay? This is called monkey mind. Second, summary explanation of how to remove the mental distraction. But through solitude of body and mind, no distractions will occur. Therefore, I should forsake the worldly life and completely discard distorted conceptions. So here you need to do things, solitude of body and solitude of mind. Right? Mind is based in the body. So therefore, if you adopt a place of solitude, there will be definitely less distraction. But there is no guarantee that your mind is able to remain in solitude. Right? Mind being non-physical, even if you are physically isolated, but the mind may be thinking everything that you have seen in the past. Once I met an American nun. She told me, Geshe, before I meditated, I was a nice person. After I meditated, I become a bad person. Then I said, how? Explain. She said, before I meditated, many of these negative thoughts were not coming. But after I meditated, all the negative thoughts are coming. Then I told her, this is a good sign. Before you meditated, also these thoughts were coming, but you never bothered to check who is coming, who is not coming. Now at least when you concentrate, then to your great shock, you realize that, oh my God, how many things are coming. See? If I ask you to meditate for 1 minute, one of the first things that will come in your mind will be shopping in New York or in Megalodganj or whatever, you see, or that last picnic that you have. The mind will immediately try to go out and have fun. Right? So that is the attitude. So therefore, when you try to concentrate, you will at least see what kind of distractions, what kind of negative thoughts are coming. Then what you need to do is recognize that and then say no to the intrusions, the unwanted minds. And then welcome the good mind. Concentrate on it. There will be no instant enlightenment, but with passage of time, your mind will become serviceable, obedient. Meaning that your mind will gradually become so serviceable, so obedient, that if you ask the mind, stay on this object, focus on the image of the Buddha, yes sir. Okay, now stop. Think about love, think about compassion, think about helping others. Yes sir, yes sir, yes sir. He will think about love, compassion. He will become a very obedient servant. Right? So that's important. Right now the mind will not obey you like that. It's really very, very, ready to revolt against you. So therefore, what you need to do is, if you want to do good dharma practice, of course you need to have your association with your friends and things like that, but reduce that association. Spend more time by yourself, reflecting, thinking, meditating, okay? And then not mixing with too many people, You have no idea what you are doing. Somebody says, come up, you go up. Somebody says, come down, you go down, as if you have no thinking. No. Many of us do that, I know that. It happens with me also, all of us also. But you need to make some decision, okay? What is necessary for that person, for you, what is important, what is not important. You have to make some decision, because at the end of the day, you need to take care of yourself. Right? So if you just keep on, I'm not saying that you completely cut off socializing, but what I'm saying is, unless you make some decision to change. When you suffer, you will suffer alone. Nobody can help you. Right? So therefore, many of these worldly commotions, jikten bin duji, which means worldly commotions, worldly hustle bustle kind of life. Stop, reduce many of these things. And try to physically remain in isolation. And more importantly, mentally try to remove many of these mental discursive thoughts like attachment, anger, jealousy. So when you remove this, that is called mental isolation, mental solitude, right? Okay? Because right now, as I said, your mind is infested with so many thoughts, anger, jealousy, hatred, what she said, what he said, how should I respond? So many thinking is going on. So get rid of this useless discursive thoughts, right? So that is called mental solitude, mental isolation. So distraction means physical isolation. Removing the distraction means staying in solitude, physically and mentally. Because in order to remove many of these negative emotions, you need to concentrate. In order to concentrate, you need to remove the obstructive distractions. For that, you need to remain in physical, mental solitude. Okay, for physical isolation or solitude, you need to lessen your association with so-called relatives, friends, and so forth. Okay, lessen that, reduce that. Okay, I know one quite well-known. I met her many years back when I was translating for His Holiness, an actress who later on became a Buddhist. And then she told me that, Geshe, I can't believe how much time I have now. Because before she was an actress and all this, so many, socializing and, partying and all those things were there. So she was always busy. Now when she realized many of these things she has to cut down, it's useless, she started doing that. Then she said, I'm amazed that I have so much time. You see? So get those time for study, for reflection, for meditation, for planning, for doing good things for others, or even completing your immediate project or whatever, You need to stay and think, a little bit. And then you can do many things easily. So that is what the text is saying. Okay? So give up all the discursive thoughts like hatred, attachment, and so forth. And especially in the beginners, especially in the case of the beginners, unless you practice physical solitude, it is difficult for you to find that mental solitude, mental isolation. So therefore, reduce that mixing with so many people and remain in forest or remain in solitude. Okay? Because if you continue to associate with other people without properly planning and thinking, then you will end up getting entrapped in the samsara continuously, forever. Okay? So therefore, be careful. Be careful. So I play with this word, usual saying, when you meet your friends and then you separate, then say, bye, take care, right? This is what Buddha taught. Bye, take care. Nobody says, bye, I'll take care of you. Have you heard anybody saying that? Normally people say, bye, take care. That's exactly what the Buddha said. The Buddha said, self is the protector of the self, no one is protector. Similarly, he said, self is the enemy of the self, no one is enemy. We are very good in pointing towards others. He is the problem, she is the problem. Otherwise my life should be in heaven, things like that, you see. She may have contributed a little bit, but the man, criminal, or somebody who is really responsible is nobody else, yourself. Right? We become vulnerable to what people say because we are accepting those things. We are accepting those things. We are a part of the deal. Right? It's very easy to complain to the business people, oh, they are producing all this packaged food, useless food, polluting environment. But we are colluding with them. Who are those who are buying all those things that is coming in the market? Without thinking probably we are just, whatever is coming in the market, we are buying everything. Yes, I have long story to tell about this. Anyway, we have no time, right? So therefore, bye, take care. Bye, take care. Nobody says, bye, I'll take care of you, okay? Then the third, from here it starts explaining the points a little bit in a more detailed way. Verse 3, worldly life is not forsaken because of attachment to people and due to craving for material gain and the like. Therefore, I should entirely forsake these things, for this is the way in which the wise behave. So that means the problem we are having is because we have attachment, we are not able to forsake it. Because we have attachment. If you take the example of today's way of life, as I already mentioned, everybody is more or less running, especially in those countries which is called the most developed countries. You go to these most developed countries, they do the greatest running. It is a paradox actually, because if you are the greatest country, you have all the facilities, then there should be enough time for people to relax and holiday and enjoy, because you have the facilities. In this context, I was reading one Buddhist teaching where it says, Mingla Tunjin Seryan Chojole Nyambar Cheba Duji Yamui, by great teacher Kongtang Temridame, where he says, Mingla Tunjin Seryan. Even if it is something which has the name facility, but if it is distracting you from the pure dharma practice, then it is not facility, but it is an invitation sent to you by the evil force. Mingla Tunjin Seryan Chojole Nyambar Cheba Duji Yamos, Shaw Sigurse Dugi. Invitation. So many of these so-called marvels that we see are invitations sent by evil forces to get you stuck there. You remember that occasion when the Buddha was about to get enlightened. The two most, almost like powerful thing that tried to distract his attention was, one was the Mara evil forces, bearing, weapons and things like that, symbolizing hatred, anger. So we destroy ourselves through hatred and anger. They could not distract Buddha by the hatred and anger. Then the next was beautiful damsels dancing, singing, symbolizing attachment. Buddha did not get distracted, but we get distracted with the both, especially attachment in the ordinary worldly sense. Okay? So therefore, it's because of attachment, it's because of your craving for material gain, etc., that because of that craving, you are unable to give up this world, attachment. So therefore, give up this world. Give up this world means not throwing it from the window, but removing that attachment, removing that craving and that grasping. So if you do that, you are a real scholar. You are a really wise person. So if you read many of these Buddhist texts, they will say that if you remove negative emotions, if you reduce negative emotions, then you are really intelligent. Never ever you will find a line in the Buddhist text saying that if you are able to make this much money, you are really great, you are really intelligent. They never say things like that, you see. Right? Because at the end of the day, what will help you is this inner resources, not the external resources. Okay? Now the most powerful antidotes are calm abiding and special insight, shamat and vipassana. Okay? Shamat means one-pointed meditation basically. Shamat. And then vipassana means wisdom, understanding, emptiness. So basically it means one-pointed concentration and analytical mind. These two are the antidotes to negative emotions. With one-pointed concentration, you will be able to reduce the obvious manifestation of the negative emotions, but it will not uproot the negative emotions. With wisdom, you will be able to destroy completely the negative emotions. So these two are the antidotes. So these two must go together. That's what is explained in the next verse. Having understood the disturbing conceptions are completely overcome by superior insight, that means wisdom, but with the help of calm abiding, concentration. These two must go together. First of all, I should search for calm abiding. This is achieved through the genuine joy of this unattached to worldly life. So for developing wisdom, you need one-pointed meditation, calm abiding. For that, you need to remove the distractions to the worldly life. Now, how would you remove that distraction or attachment to the worldly things? So the text now talks about how to remove that attachment to sentient beings. Now, when we talk about the world, there are basically two things. The internal world, which is the sentient beings, then the external world in the form of material facilities, right? So how would you remove that attachment to other people, other sentient beings? Because of the obsession one transient being has for other transient beings, he will not see his beloved once again for many thousands of lives. So he's talking about the reality. The reality is, why should somebody who is impermanent will develop attachment to another that is impermanent? Right? When we develop attachment to somebody, we immediately think that I will enjoy with this person forever. That's how we make the relationship. So he's saying, no, number one, the person you have attachment is impermanent. You are also impermanent. And because of this, it is wrong to think that you will live happily with this person for a long, long time. I give you the example of 99-year-old man. When you see the reality, you will not develop attachment. So today somebody may be your most beloved brother, sister and so forth, but once that person dies, you will never ever see that person again. This is the truth. So when we meet people, it's really like meeting people in the street. Just say hi and then don't pay too much attention. Don't get obsessed. If I go to Meghalowganj street, then whoever I meet, oh, I want to talk to you, and get obsessed with everybody, doesn't make any sense. There's a story of 4 people, 4 friends. So they go out sightseeing and then goes to a garden. And after a while, the 3 friends come back to their home, and one friend was missing for a while. Then after a while, that missing friend comes back extremely sad and weeping and crying. Then the other friend said, what happened? He said, oh, in the garden I saw a beautiful woman. I fell in love with this beautiful woman, Then suddenly she disappeared. She's no more here, Then these three friends said, I have never seen a stupid person like you. Because when they asked, from where this woman came from? No, I have no idea. From which country? No idea. Family background? No idea. How come that you develop that excessive attachment to such a person about which you have no idea? This is just a story. But honestly speaking, do we know the reality of everybody? In our ordinary case, maybe you know the family, but that's not what he is asking. He is really asking about the reality of that person. That person is impermanent, transient, having no independent existence, things like that. Do you know about all these things? Without knowing that, how can you develop that excessive attachment? Instead, as I said, develop love, unconditional love. That makes perfect sense. But not attachment. Okay, it's not easy, but that's what we should try to do. Okay? So continuing with that verse, not seeing them, I am unhappy. When you love somebody, when you have especially attachment to somebody, when we don't see them, I am unhappy. you just keep on thinking about this. Even the sixth Dalai Lama, he in his book called Sixth Dalai Lama's Love Song, if you like, it's there in the library for sale, Hindi, Tibetan, English, all the versions are there. So there, because of a purpose, he led a different life, right? And even people nicknamed him by womanizer or woman chaser and things like that. So anyway, he wrote this. So recently, some years back, I saw a beautiful commentary on that written by a Tibetan somewhere. He explains that whole so-called love song is highest tantric practice, which is really, really possible. But that song, those poems, so beautiful, so easy to relate to your life, my life. So there he says, I keep on thinking about women, not about my teacher. And regarding his thinking about the women, my beloved girl, it comes into my mind so much. He said, if my mind goes to the teacher, if your mind goes to the teacher, similar in the way my mind goes to my beloved girlfriend, there's no doubt about my getting enlightened in one lifetime very easily. The other day I was reading a text, Buddhist text, which it says, even if you spend I don't know the percentage, like 15-20 percentage of what you normally do, the worldly related things, instead of that, if you spend 15-20 percentage of that way of life, truth, dharma practice, you will very soon get enlightened. Meaning that we are not dedicating any of that time for serious practice, right? So therefore, these are very good teachings. Not seeing them, I am unhappy. And my mind cannot be settled in equipoise because you keep on thinking about that object. Now even if I see them, there is no satisfaction. Drinking salty water, right? And of course, even if you're together, and again the problem is bigger than this. The problem is when you're not together, you want that person to be with you. When you're together, most probably you will be fighting, So, and as before, I am tormented by craving. So at the end of the day, it's craving which will torment you, right? So therefore, with this kind of mental negative emotions, mental distractions, there will be suffering in this life, in the future life. Your mind will be disturbed, agitated, and your mind will be totally distracted. And more importantly, with this kind of negative emotions and distractions, you will end up not practicing all those practices which leads to liberation, nirvana. Verse number 7. Through being attached to living beings, I am completely obscured from the perfect reality. My disillusion with cycle existence perishes, and in the end I am tortured by sorrow. Meaning that if you continuously develop this excessive attachment to sentient beings, call them friends, relatives, or whatever, attachment, I am not saying loving kindness, attachment, then your mind will be obscured from seeing the reality of emptiness, of impermanence, of suffering and so forth. Your mind will not be able to think about that. And not only that, then you will not fed up with the samsaric life. You will enjoy samsaric life. And you will start thinking samsara is great. So long as you don't have that disillusionment, so long as you are unable to see the limitation of the present world, it is impossible for you to develop this appreciation of nirvana. As Aryadeva says in his 400 verses, which means a person, if a person is really happy with his present home, why should he or she think about moving to some other country like America and things like that? But when you have this problem of your home, there's no harmony among the family members, the place is rough and tough, it's not good, then you immediately think about, this is too much, now I should move to some other place, some other country. So when you feel this samsara is so okay, why should you think about nirvana, you see? If I get job, little bit of job, give me a little bit money and do this, then I am happy, you see. Why should you think about that? Right? So therefore it is important, if you want to get that long-lasting happiness, I am not saying it, Buddha is not saying it, but we all have this inborn wish to get that long-lasting happiness. That's the point. If you say, I don't want long-lasting happiness, I also don't believe in future life, this life is the life, so therefore just enjoy this life. If you belong to that category of people, then it's a different story. Right? Different story. But our inborn quality of the mind is that we all want long-lasting happiness and peace. And actually from Buddhist viewpoint, this is good news. Okay? Right from the birth, having this wish to get long-lasting peace and happiness indicates that there is a possibility if you make the effort. So that's a good news. If you make the effort, it is possible. And even in this life, you can see many people who, when they have developed a bigger mental outlook, more holistic mental outlook, more realistic mental outlook, these people are happier and more peaceful, right? Right? So therefore we should see if you really want long-lasting happiness, then it is imperative that we should see the limitations, disillusionment that is there in the samsara. So in order to know that, you need to know many, things in human life which is really not satisfactory. That's why in Buddhism we talk about suffering of change, conditioned suffering. Right now we have little bit understanding of suffering only. Conditioned suffering we don't have no idea. Even suffering of change we don't have much idea. Right? So suffering of change means, like for this class is from 5:30 to 6, right? No, sorry, 5 to 6:30. 5 to 6:30. So you have mentally decided to sit here 5 to 6:30. But if I continue to give the teaching by saying human life is so precious, it will be difficult to get the time again, so let us sit, please sit, I will give you more teaching. If I continue to talking beyond 6:30, I plan to teach until 9 p.m. Forget about your or my being able to stay until 9 p.m. When my time crosses a little bit, 6:30, you will start fidgeting. 100% sure. One, because the original kind of happiness that you experienced by sitting down, if you have been standing outside, then being able to sit is happiness. Then your mind also has some preparedness to come to this teaching, so you are enjoying it. So you thought this is happiness. Yes, this is a kind of happiness, but not the real happiness, not the long-lasting happiness, because very soon it will change into suffering. If I keep on talking and you need to keep on sitting, it will change into suffering. Then backache, knee pain, and all those things will come, suffering of change. So what this is saying is, the friendship that we have, the food we eat, everything after a certain time will give problem. Any student of economics know the word law of marginal utility. You see, you eat one bread, good, two bread, okay, third, 3, 4, 5, then you start vomiting, So this is called, there's no certainty in terms of relation, the things that you enjoy. There's no certainty that they will give you long-lasting happiness. And this is because basically something is wrong. That means conditioned suffering. Our psychophysical state is conditioned in such a way that we are prone to such sufferings. Okay? Verse number 8. By thinking only of them, this life will pass without any meaning. Do something that's meaningful. That is what he's saying. Instead, if you keep on thinking about that impermanent sentient beings and keep on developing attachment, this life will pass without any meaning. Like for example, in this particular gathering, at an average we have already spent maybe 30 years already. So if we are lucky and live another 60, 70 years, that's all. Right? And then in the next 60, 50 years, again as that great teacher said, half of it you will spend sleeping, right? Then eating, washing clothes, things like so many things you need to do. So where is the time to do dharma practice? You need to find the time to do dharma practice. Once His Holiness was giving teaching to a group of people from France. I was then not translator, I was just attending the teaching. A French woman asked the question, His Holiness, your teaching is very important, but in the West we have no time to do dharma practice. So what should we do? Then His Holiness said, whether you want to do dharma practice or not, it is your choice, nobody is forcing you. So first I thought, His Holiness, you are a little bit blunt today. But he was not blunt, he was really saying that whether you want to do dharma practice or not, it is your choice, meaning when you choose something, you should find time. People who practice music, they find time. People who play football, they find time because they like it. So whenever they find a small space, they are kicking, hitting the ball. I've seen many people like that. But when it comes to dharma practice, you are saying, I have no time. Basically you are saying, honestly speaking, I am not very interested. You see? Right? So what I am saying is, dharma practice should not be taken so lightly, because it's the most important thing. Most important thing. Because you are talking about getting more reliable happiness, more long-lasting happiness. That more long-lasting happiness will not come from playing football. You can play, of course, you can enjoy, that's okay, but see the priority, which one is more important. Many of other human activities that you do, you can do, of course you can do if you like it, you see. But many are, in terms of achieving human life, many are really like distractions. For physical exercise may be good, but many are really distractions. Right? For business and for show, people invent so many things. And then everybody just starts doing that. People are basically monkeys, monkey brain. There is a Tibetan saying which says, Chawatamji lemoi lemo kanki kebai. All activities are imitations, and whoever does the best imitation is called a scholar. Right? So we invent so many things and then we just ape it, just copy it without thinking. There are many things, like during the fashion show, you have what you call as catwalk. Catwalk is imitating cat, right? If you are able to walk like a cat, it's a great thing. Huh? If you are able to swim like a fish, it's a great thing. Huh? It's wonderful. You can do, of course, you can show your talent. I'm not saying you can't do, but that is not an area where you can show your expertise. That's what I'm saying. It's wonderful. There is a person who won how many gold medals in swimming in Beijing Olympics. I forgot his name. Huh? Michael? Somebody, yeah? Must be him, Michael Tinzin or something. So it's wonderful, He's the world's #1 gold medalist in swimming and things like that. But I immediately wondered, yeah, he's the world's #1 in swimming, but can he compete fish? You see? The fish, they have been like day and night, they have been swimming, they are the real experts, So by imitating them, it's good, you are able to do certain things. I'm not against it, but what I'm saying is, this is not the area where human beings show their greatest excellence. The most important thing is that we have is human intelligence, the capacity to judge what is right and what is wrong, the capacity to analyze the long-term and short-term goals. This must be utilized to benefit many, many sentient beings. That's the most important thing. Then as a pastime, of course, if you like, you can do many of these things, So that's my point, okay? So by thinking only of them, this life will pass without any meaning. Furthermore, impermanent friends and relatives will even destroy the dharma, which leads to permanent liberation, you see. So you said you want permanent liberation, meaning you said you want permanent happiness, but now you are confused with temporary fleeting pleasures, and in this process you are losing this great opportunity to get that long-lasting happiness. I mean, think about Buddha. When he left his home, he left his wife with a sleeping child. During many of my talks, some people said, yeah, Buddha's teaching is very good, but one thing we are hesitant, we are not so sure. What? Leaving his wife and child in bag and going like that. So again, this is a worldly way of thinking, you see. Now you should see whether the Buddha was able to benefit his wife and children and his father and many more by staying with them or by moving out. You see? It's not that he doesn't have the love and compassion. One of the first things that he did after enlightenment was coming to see his father and wife and giving them teachings, not dragging them back into the quagmire of attachment, you see. Right? So therefore, the more you are able to develop these inner qualities for long-term purposes, the more you are able to benefit yourself and benefit many, many others. Right? Okay. If I behave, now I will quickly read, okay? If I behave in the same way as the childish, I shall certainly proceed to lower realms. And if I am led there by those unequal to the noble ones, what is the use of entrusting myself to the childish? Childish means ordinary people. Unenlightened, ordinary people are like children. So if you continue to live like that, you will become childish. And you will never be able to equal to the noble ones. You will be unequal to the noble ones. Meaning that you will go to negative state of existence. Okay? You will be taken to a lower realm. So therefore, what is the use of associating too much on these people who are, ordinary and worldly? Now, this is not to say that you should not have love, you should not have affection, you should have love, you should have compassion. But love and compassion does not mean that you get stuck with them, you tie your neck with them. It's not that question. Even a non-Buddhist thinker, he said, love is not how many times you touch each other. Love is not how many times you touch each other. Love is how many times you reach each other. It's not physically touching and hugging. It's really mentally caring, reaching out. You see the difference, you see. See the difference. Okay. Then he explains the nature of these childish people. One moment they are friends. In the next instant, they become enemies. People are so sensitive, you have to be very careful. Even with the slight usage of words, they get happy, they get angry, they get hurt, you see. Right? So understand that situation, develop more compassion, but not attachment. One moment they are friends. In the next instant, they become enemies. And becoming enemies is much easier than becoming friends. I'll tell you one example. How much we are stuck in negative emotions. If I have a friend who is my, as we say in English, hand and glove friend, which means very close friend, for the last 30 years. In Tibetan we say michik nyingchik, like one person. very close friend. But unfortunately, this morning during breakfast, we had a 5 minutes verbal fight. 5 minutes versus 30 years of friendship. Now look at this joke. We'll remember this 5 minutes fight and will not remember their 30 years long friendship. Is this true or not true? Because of this 5 minutes fight, you will stop talking to each other. You will stop seeing each other. This is our tendency. So the desirable thing is, if something like that happens, you should have the courage to go back to that friend, hug that friend, cry and say, how come, what happened today between you and me? Whoever is wrong, don't talk about that. We have been like such a good friend for the last 30 years. This should not be destroyed by 5 minutes disagreement. You hug and cry, you will be able to maintain that friendship. But do we do that? If you do that, we will say, oh, he must have made a mistake because he is seeking forgiveness from. This is how we think, you see. This is the worldly way, this is the childish way, you see. So therefore it is important, whenever we are not enlightened beings, we are ordinary people, we make mistakes. But don't maintain that disliking, hatred, ill will inside you. It will kill you. It will even produce cancer. It's medically found now. Okay? So sometimes you get irritated, angry, but the next time you try to talk to the person. And this is on a small scale. I've been doing this, you see. I try to do this. It's so good. Nobody wants, either you or that person, nobody wants to be angry all the time, especially if you are co-workers. Nobody wants to remain like that. That person is also looking for an opportunity to talk. So you give the opportunity. Smile or say something. He will also start smiling. Then you become very good friend, you see. Right? Okay? One moment they are friends. Another way of thinking is, ordinary people like small kids, If small kids get angry with you, will you also get angry? Normally not, see? Because these are small kids, they are innocent. So similarly you should think, all these so-called enlightened, so-called educated people, grown-up people, they are in a way also they are really innocent. They are also innocent. So develop that understanding and there will be less negative emotions. One moment they are friends, like small kids. One moment they will pray, one moment they will cry, one moment they are friends, and the next moment they become enemies. Since they become angry, even in joyful situations, it is difficult to please ordinary people. Even in those situations where you should really be enjoying, they don't enjoy, they become angry, So it's difficult to please. As is said in the Buddhist teaching, one of the old English saying also says, one who tries to please all will please none. These are similar teachings, you see. So they are angry when something of benefit is said. When you really, sincerely, honestly want to benefit in them and try to correct them, say something which is beneficial, they'll get angry. They will say, who are you highlighting my fault? Get angry, you see. And they also turn me away from what is beneficial. Because that person is your friend, so they will also drag you into that. If I do not listen to what they say, they become angry and hence proceed to lower realms. They are envious of superiors. Now in their relations with the different people, if somebody is superior, they are jealous. If somebody is equal, competition. And to the inferiors, arrogant towards the inferiors. If somebody praises them, they get conceited. I am somebody special. Conceited when praised. And if anything unpleasant is said, they become angry. Never is any benefit derived from the childish. So don't expect too much. Okay? Through associating with the childish, there will certainly ensure unwholesomeness. So what you get is negative emotions, such as praising myself and belittling others and discussing the joys of cyclic existence. That is what ordinary people do. They keep on talking about their family, they are talking about their business, they keep on talking about cyclic existence. Hardly anybody will talk about achieving long-lasting happiness. This is something not taught in any school. No school talks about achieving long-lasting happiness. Forget about future life. more durable. They will never talk about. Right? Developing myself to others in this way will bring about nothing but misfortune, because they will not benefit me and I shall not benefit them. And so if you tie two animals together, both of them will die together. Okay? I should flee far away from childish people. So maintain a distance. In terms of showing kindness and love, yes, you should be in association with them, but your association with other people should not be too far, too close. Just like your relationship with fire. With fire, if you become too close and touch the fire, it will burn you, right? If you go too far away from the fire, you will not get the warmth of the fire. So maintain a good distance so that you get the warmth but not get burnt. I should flee far away from childish people when they are encountered. Though I should please them by being happy, I should behave well merely out of courtesy, but not become greatly familiar. So that's what I'm saying. Little bit you maintain distance. And if you meet somebody, of course you should feel happy. When they encountered, meaning when you meet somebody, of course you should show smile, you should feel happy. But it does not mean that you continue to keep in touch with them and then get stuck with that person. Right? I should behave well merely out of courtesy, but not become greatly familiar. In the same way as a bee takes honey from a flower, I should take merely what is necessary for the practice of dharma, but remain unfamiliar as though I had never seen them before. I mean, worldly wise, this is not very good, right? Some people who I knew before, then I forgot their name. One day they turned out, I did not remember. They get angry. Geshe-la, now I think you are very high person, So they get angry, see. So of course, even if your realization is like a divine or a God, but your behavior should be normal, okay? So that should be there. But what he's saying is, while mixing with people, you should not get stuck with them, so that you forget your dharma practice. So therefore, in the same way as a bee takes honey from flower, the bee comes and takes the honey from the flower without destroying the flower. Okay? So similarly, I should take what is necessary for the practice of dharma. When you associate with other people, try your best to make them follow dharma and make sure that you yourself is able to practice dharma. But then after that, remain unfamiliar, meaning as if you never met, meaning not in ordinary sense, but meaning without developing too much attachment. As though I had never seen them before. Mentally, of course, externally, as we read in the preceding line, out of courtesy, you need to show all these things. Okay? I have much material wealth as well as honor, and many people like me. Nurturing self-importance this way, I shall be made terrified after that. That means, if somebody praises you, if you have wealth and fame, you get puffed up. Don't get puffed up. That is what he's saying. Because if you nurture that self-importance because of wealth, because of honor, then when you at the time of death, none of this will be of any benefit, and you will only develop a lot of fear how to face that problem. So you thoroughly confuse mind by the piling up of whatever objects you are attached to, misery 1,000-fold will ensure. So basically, all these negative emotions are developed because of ignorance, because of confusion. Okay? Because it is basically saying that to whatever object you are attached, you might get little bit pleasure from that attachment, but 100,000-fold sufferings will arise later on by getting stuck with those problems. Hence, the wise should not be attached, because fear is born from attachment. Fear is born from attachment. If you have no attachment, there will be no fear. If you have attachment, then there is fear of losing this person, losing this house, losing that name, losing that fame, and so forth. With a firm mind, understand well that it is the nature of these things to be discarded. All this we need to discard sooner or later. So therefore, why you develop so much attachment right now, right? Although I may have much material wealth, be famous and well spoken of, whatever fame and renown I have amassed has no power to accompany me after death. So these are useless in the long run. That's what he's saying. Not only in the long run, not only after death, in this life also, they are extra baggage. They'll create more problem than bring happiness. You see, as I give you the example of Lady Diana. I can give several examples, like some of the so-called ministers have some name, some fame, then day and night they are watched by police. So there is no personal freedom in the true sense of the term, you know. So that's very important. If there is, and then why should you pay too much attention to praises and, you know, when somebody says good things, somebody says bad things. If there is someone who despises me, what pleasure can I have in being praised? And if there is another who praises me, what displeasure can I have in being despised? That meaning that there are people who say bad things about me. So therefore I should not be very happy when somebody praises me. When somebody praises you, don't feel too overjoyed, because there are others who are saying bad things about you. Okay? As I said, if there is a good news, bad news is waiting, like that. If even the conqueror, that means Buddha, was unable to please, Buddha could not please everybody, right? The various inclinations of different sentient beings. When I was working in His Holiness office, one thing that really became very clear to me was you can never please anybody. Okay, you should develop that compassion, but firm. Be compassionate and firm. I learned that. Because you cannot please anybody, everybody, right? Things like that. Buddha could not do that. They scorn those who have no material gain. See, this is the way we do. If people have no wealth, then we look down upon them. They scorn those who have no material gain, and say bad things about those who do. If somebody has wealth, then say, oh, he must have, you know, black marketed, he must have stolen the government money. If somebody is rich, we are all jealous and say all the bad things. He must have done the shortcut, you know, things like that. When somebody is poor, then we say, oh, ugly, poor, beggar, you know. How can they, who are by nature so hard to get along with, ever derive any pleasure from me? It has been said by the Tathagata that one should not befriend the childish, because unless they get their own way, these children are never happy. So at the end of the day, people only want to serve themselves. That's the problem. In our own case, personal case also, that the real troublemaker is the self-cherishing attitude. Similarly, this is the problem with everybody. So they always, at the end of the day, I mean, look at this. Everybody thinks I am the center of the world, center of the universe. However tiny, insignificant, small you are, but you will think, I must be the center of the universe. And the rest are revolving around me. You know, to explain this more clearly, let us say, for example, if I have a brother or sister, which I say, I really love my sister and brother more than myself. I love my husband and wife more than myself. And you make all these big statements, okay? On good days, okay? But as and when there is a disagreement or problem arises between with your sister, with your brother, who is the person that you will try to defend? Yourself. Sister, you are wrong, I am right. Husband, you are wrong, I am right. Brother, you are wrong, I am right. So at the end of the day, you are the most important thing because of the self-cherishing attitude. Right? So that has to be changed. That should be replaced by bodhicitta. Others are more important. You see, others are more important, right? So therefore, instead of associating with these childish people, I should go to the forest or stay more in solitude to develop these inner qualities. So therefore, the next verse says, when shall I come to dwell in the forests? You know, somebody who really wants to practice is really dying to go into the forest, place of solitude. You know, you are fed up with all these many useless, relationships and things like that. When shall I come to dwell in forests? And living with whom? Amongst the deer, the birds and the trees. They say nothing unpleasant and are delightful to associate with. Birds, they are chirping, but they are not saying any bad thing about you. Tigers, even tigers and lions, you have to be a little bit careful, but they will not say anything bad about you, you see. Right? And the nature, most welcoming, things like that. Right? When dwelling in caves, in empty shrines, and at the feet of trees, never look back, cultivate attachment. You will never look back to cultivate attachment. When shall I come to dwell in places nor clung to as mine? It's I, me and mine. Scientifically it is found that people who make lot of self-references, I, me and mine, they are prone to all kind of illnesses including heart attack. People, most of us are like that. We make lot of self-references, I, me, mine, I, me, mine. This is source of all kind of illnesses including heart attack, because when you talk primarily about I, me and mine, you are talking about a very small thing. You are developing a very small, narrow-minded attitude. You are developing that tunnel vision. So within that small tunnel vision, within that small pipe, I, me and mine, even if there is a small, tiny, insignificant problem, you tend to see it as if it is unsurmountable. I am suffering. The whole world is enjoying. It's the poor, miserable fellow me who is suffering here. You see? Because you don't have that bigger holistic picture, you see. If you, instead of that tunnel vision, if you are able to develop bigger picture, then you will be able to understand, yes, I have some problem, it's true, but it's not just me. And not just me, but there are many others, millions others, who are suffering much, much, much more than myself. Then because of this understanding, yes, this suffering I have, but it's tolerable. You see? Right? Right? So it's a perspective. It's a perspective. In places not clung to as mine, which are by nature. So the place where you go into the forest is wide and open, There's a story of a very rich person who had a nice house, and normally all the rich people, they have a nice house and in front of that a swimming pool, right? So this father takes his son for a walk outside into open place where some villagers are living. Then the father really wanted to show that you should be really happy, how rich we are. We have this big house with a swimming pool. Then at the end of that tour, the child, the son or child instead said, Father, now I realize how poor we are. Because we have this small tiny house, but they have the whole field. And we have this small swimming pool, but they have the whole creek, So that is what he's saying. That is what he's saying, Which are by nature wide and open, and where I may behave as I wish without attachment. Now in big cities, like even in Dharamsala, we don't have even good playground for small kids, you see. When shall I come to live without fear, having just a begging bowl and a few odd things, wearing clothes not wanted by anyone, drag, and not even having to hide this body? Now, not much time, I'll just read it. It's very easy to understand. But if you want to go deeper, then of course you need to study. Having departed to the cemeteries, when shall I come to understand that this body of mine and the skeletons of others are equal in being subject to decay? In some monasteries in Thailand, they have the dead bodies, so 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, and so forth, to meditate on impermanence. Then because of its odor, not even the foxes will come close to the body of mine, for this is what will become of it. So our body will become like that in the end. Although this body arose as one thing, the bones and flesh with which it was created will break up and separate. How much more so will friends and others? If even my body is separated in this way, then what is the need to talk about the separation of your friends and others. At birth I was born alone, and at death too I shall die alone. As this pain cannot be shared by others, what use are obstacle making friends? But after reading this, don't keep on saying that you're my friend, you're obstacle, you go away. I'm not saying this, okay? So you should find out the fine line, okay? So in the name of practicing dharma, don't make mistakes. Okay, then you will become crazy. In the same way, as travelers on a highway leaves one place and reach another, likewise those traveling on the path of conditioned existence leave one birth and reach. So it's just like travelers seeing different people and then meeting, leaving them and meeting different people, until the time comes for this body to be supported by 4 pallbearers. That is when you are dead, when you are carried on that pallbearers by the pallbearers. While the worldly stand around stricken with grief, until then I shall retire to the forest. So before all these ugly things happen, I should start my practice. That's what he's saying. A similar expression in English is also there, which says, when I came into this world, I came crying, people welcomed me by clapping their hands. Therefore now I should live my life in such a way, when I die, I go smiling, people cry after me. I mean, these are all wisdoms, similar to this kind of teaching. Befriending no one and begrudging no one. My body will dwell alone in solitude. If I am already counted as a dead man, when I die, there will be no mourners. You see? Because your concern is, why should I unnecessarily make other people suffer after me? Right? I also know one great teacher who was one of the Gandhian throne holder. He developed a huge tumor here, huge tumor. But with his students and caretakers, he would never say, they told me, he would never say that I have pain. Because he's really meditating, thinking, why should I, make others suffer? But as soon as he reaches the hospital and does the consultation with the doctor, then he says, I have a lot of pain here. You see? Right? So as much as possible, don't make other people suffer unnecessarily. Right? And as there will be no one around to disturb me with their mourning, thus there will be no one to distract me from my recollection of the Buddha. Therefore I shall dwell alone, happy and contented with few difficulties, in very joyful and beautiful forests, pacifying all distractions. Having given up all other intentions, being motivated by only one thought, I shall strive to settle my minds in equipoise by means of calm abiding and to subdue it with superior insight. Both in this world and the next, desires give rise to great misfortune. In this life, killing, bondage and flaying, and in the next, the existence of the hells. So if you undertake such a practice, there will be a lot of benefit. And the most powerful practice is practice to reduce attachment, hatred and so forth is meditation on the wisdom, understanding the reality. So the result of such practice of wisdom is explained in the next verse, which says, what is there to gain or what is there to lose? Is it there in your text? Okay, what is there to gain, what is there to lose? With things that are empty of true existence in this way, meaning things are like rainbow. So what is there to gain, what is there to lose? Who is there to pay me respect and who is there to abuse me? From what are pleasure and pain derived? What is there to be happy or unhappy about? When I search for the ultimate nature, who is there to crave and what is there to crave for? Upon analysis, the world of living beings is found to have no true existence. They are like a dream. Therefore, who can die here? What is there to come and what has been? Who are friends and who are relatives? O you who are investigating reality, please recognize, as I have done, that all is just like space. So there are many more. If you want to read more, the rest of the chapter is also there. So basically, from the conventional point of view, ordinary point of view, and also from the point of view of ultimate reality, developing attachment, anger, hatred is of no use. So that is what he is saying. Right? Okay, I will stop here. Thank you very much for coming. You give me a wonderful opportunity to do my homework.